Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Orange Report Weekly. I'm your host, Kira Davis. Let's bring on the sunshine. It's been a minute since we've been with you. It's been a busy July. I know a lot of you have been having a busy summer. I know I've got a friend in Tokyo right now, and I cannot wait to hear her stories from Tokyo. But everybody's getting back to the regular fall season. School's about to start up. We've got a lot of stories going on. So let's get started. Let's run down some headlines. All right, your first headline comes from yours truly. Have you heard about this story? The Orange County Fair displays an apparent assassination photo of Trump that says, "Happy last birthday, Trump," at the fair. And then, shockingly, a couple days later, Donald Trump underwent another assassination attempt at the Trump golf course in Los Angeles. And I don't know if you've had the chance to see this story. We'll include links in the show notes, or you can go to my Substack, justkiradavis.com, or go to the Orange Report Substack, orangereport.substack.com. You see all the links on the screen there, and look this up. But this is a crazy story. And our chairman, Will O'Neill, who's been a guest on this show, the Republican chairman, he actually had a response. He sent a response to the OC Fair. And one of the things I found really interesting about his response, I did not know this. This is the first year, this also happens to be the first year in a decade that the OC Fair has not allowed the Republican Party to have a booth at the fair where they can do outreach to voters and explain their positions. It's been a long-standing tradition. So coincidentally, the Republican Party was not allowed to interact with the public at the OC Fair. And at the same time, they had this photo, this is actually a real photo from a No Kings protest. These are children holding these signs. Forget the pride flag, which is another kind of terrorism in my mind. This assassination, I would call it a pro-assassination photo. A child is holding this. And this is where we are. Not only that someone would take the photo and then think this is an appropriate photo to be submitted to a family fair, the art festival at a family fair, but then that family-friendly fair would post it. I think it is a sign of the times and a sign of not only the political divisiveness that we're in, but the growing violence on the left. It's just sort of normalized. It's so normalized that the Orange County Fair would post a picture about it. Now, a lot of people had a lot to say, including our chairman, Will O'Neill. Orange County Fair Board was flooded with responses, flooded with complaints, and a couple of news agencies, including our own, picked up the story. And so they have since released, the Orange County Fair Board has since released a statement saying that they reviewed the picture, they have taken the picture down, they want to remain a family-friendly atmosphere. And in fact, it was the photojournalist himself who requested the photo be removed. At first, he just wanted his name taken off the photo, and I don't think they could accommodate that. So he withdrew it himself. That photo is no longer at the Orange County Fair, but that's thanks to you. That's thanks to an alert citizen who went to the event and took a photo, thought to take a photo and thought to share. And I always tell you guys, get on the record. I know it seems silly. Oh, only 10 people see my post or nobody, but get on the record, because people like me and Will O'Neill and other people who have platforms will see it eventually, and sometimes they'll share it, and sometimes it becomes a big story. So if you see something that bothers you out there in Orange County, or it doesn't even have to bother you, if you see something that's good news and you think it should be shared, you share it. Don't wait for a news agency to pick it up. We'll pick it up from you, because really, you are the media. The media is you. You're the consumer, but you're also the people who make the media, your citizens. So thank you to the OC Fair for taking that photo down, and perhaps next year you can make sure, A, nothing like that happens again, but B, you can reinstate a major political party's booth to interact with the public, and do so on the same professional basis that they've done for 10 years. All right, next headline is from the Voice of OC, and this is regarding Newport. This is author Noah Bisiata. Newport Beach asked judge to block ballot initiative aimed at limiting housing. I thought this was an interesting headline because we are struggling with this. The state has mandated that some of our smaller beach communities, well, basically all communities start including affordable housing. And when you get to a place like OC, especially South OC, where we are so condensed and a lot of people live in these beachside communities, the statute was really aimed at red beachside communities like Newport Beach. There have been multiple lawsuits, but we're really getting to the end of that. But Newport Beach, I'll read to you, Newport Beach leaders are looking to a judge to shut down a ballot initiative that would significantly cut the number of housing units built in the city that was exclusively bankrolled by one of the city's largest developments. This isn't a Voice of OC headline, by the way, so keep in mind, they're writing from a left-wing perspective. So their leaders that they're talking about asking someone to block a ballot initiative, Republican leaders, we don't really do that, do we? No, that's a left-wing thing. These Democrat Newport Beach leaders do not want this ballot initiative to be added to Newport Beach's next round of voting. With less than 100 days till the general election, OC Superior Court Judge Julianne Bancroft is facing a deadline of August 28th to decide if the initiative can go on the November ballot. As OC Registrar of Voters Bob Page warns, they'll need an answer soon. The initiative, dubbed the Responsible Housing Initiative, would require voters to decide if they want to throw out the city's existing housing plan and adopt one that zones for fewer new homes, which could set them up for a lawsuit from the state. Again, because the state has mandated now that we rezone. Huntington Beach has really been on the forefront of this. They're still looking at ways to get around this. I've always said this is an attack on Orange County specifically. It is punishment for the way we live and the lifestyles we lead here, and the somewhat good governance that we've managed to keep in place. It's an attack really on liberty. It really is an attack on liberty, and so is this. So I applaud Newport Beach for working on rezoning. Why on earth would you need to build more housing in Newport, or more affordable housing at that? Newport Beach doesn't need affordable housing. Honest to goodness, I can't afford to live in Newport Beach, and so guess what? I don't. And if you can't afford to live in Newport Beach, you shouldn't be there either. They're never talking about building affordable housing in San Bernardino, are they? No, again, this is an attack on Orange County lifestyle. So we'll keep an eye on this story. And if you have any tips on the story, or you've been to the Newport Beach Council meeting and you want to give us a report, we'd love your update. Hit us up here at the Orange Report. All right, our next story is from the California Post and me again. I know a lot of you have heard about this cancer cluster that we have in Ladera Ranch, my home suburb. And the more we dig into this, the worse it's getting. It's not getting better. The more we learn, the scarier it gets. So I showed up on Newsmax this week to talk about the community that I love. And I talked about how much I love Ladera and have loved raising my family there, and how the people of Ladera are good people and they deserve answers. But I talked about what I discovered when I posted about my dog. This is the second dog. I have a dog that has cancer now. She's blind. She has a brain tumor. This is the second dog that has gotten ill in Ladera. Our first dog actually just dropped dead years ago for no good reason. And I just was thinking, maybe I just have bad luck with dogs. But I posted in our Health Watch group in Ladera, and I was shocked to discover how many people responded saying, yes, my dog got cancer as well, in the dozens, if not hundreds. And a leading type of cancer for dogs is nose cancer in Ladera. So that should tell you a lot about, like they're the closest to the grounds. They're my friend John Gresko, who we did an interview with this week. He says they're the canary in the coal mines. And he's right. And it was shocking to see, because you're just thinking, okay, this is a pet, and maybe there's lots of other reasons. Dogs are different than us. We don't take them to the hospital all the time. We don't take them to the doctors all the time like us. But there is something deeply wrong in Ladera, and we don't have enough answers yet. We barely have any, in fact. So I want everyone to keep an eye on this story, help support us. I'm going to talk a little bit about it later on in the show, and check out my appearance on Newsmax to talk more about that. Next headline comes again from the voice of OC, and I found this one really interesting. Check this story out. Brea bumps up political donation limits ahead of the election. Isn't that interesting? Let's read a little bit. Donors can now give Brea City Council candidates $5,900 under new limits set by city officials ahead of the November election. It comes after city council members unanimously voted on the new $5,900 limit with no discussion on Tuesday, July 21st. The contribution limit was last discussed at the September 20th, 2022 council meeting when the city adopted a resolution establishing a donation limit of $4,900. The donation bump also hits as the city council members are facing criticism from some residents over their approval of a tax sharing agreement to get a Costco and housing in town. Okay, so let me put these two things together here, why I found this very interesting. It's very interesting that against community wishes, they have approved a new giant Costco and new housing. So the community did not want this. In the same meeting, at the same time, but behind closed doors, they bumped up their own campaign contribution limits. If you don't think those two things are connected, you haven't been paying attention. Here's my suspicion. This is just my opinion. The Brea City Council might be getting some kickbacks from developers, but in order to take a bit more advantage of those kickbacks, they needed to raise the contribution limits. Otherwise, why would they do this? The last time they addressed it was in 2022. Folks, always follow the money. We're talking about this in Ladera Ranch too. We're wondering why our HOA just can't discontinue immediately the use of these pesticides that we don't like and we think might be related, at least think, right, might be related to childhood cancers. Why can't they just snap their fingers and end it? You know, usually my experience in this business tells me you always follow the money. So folks, follow the money in Brea. Show up at your next city council meeting and ask them about the bump in their campaign contributions. And then maybe what some of you might want to do out there and report back to us is pull the public records of who is contributing to those campaigns before November. And that might be interesting. All right, you know what? That's it for our headlines for this week. Thank you to all of the reporters, journalists, and publications who work hard out there to get us the information. Thank you to the Voice of OC, Orange County Register, LA Times, California Post, and me. Thanks to everybody who works to get us the information. Okay, well, before we get to some of our topics from this past week, I do want to talk a little bit about Prop 39. Do you guys know what Prop 39 is? If you don't, you should memorize it. Prop 39 is our voter ID ballot initiative, but if you don't know, we have been struggling over the language on the ballot initiative. Carl DeMaio and a group of other people combined to sue the state after they renamed the ballot initiative. We knew they were going to do this, but they renamed the ballot initiative. This is a voter ID ballot initiative, 75% voter approval rate. And Rob Bonta and his minions renamed it prohibiting voting unless you have proof of citizenship. So as you can see, they monkeyed with the language at the beginning. It makes it look like, at first glance, that this is an anti-voting bill, that this is some kind of measure to force people out of the ballot box. And of course, that's not it at all. Carl DeMaio cut a little video. I want to show you this. Carl's always great for summaries, and he's just been a warrior out there, and he was pretty upset about this. So let's check out what Carl has to say.
Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California, here with some disappointing news. It's pissing me off, but you need to know what just went down in a courtroom here in Sacramento regarding our Prop 39 voter ID initiative. You know that we sued the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta, because he changed the title on our ballot measure because he's trying to manipulate the vote. He doesn't want voters to know that they're voting on the voter ID initiative. He put a title on that says the initiative prohibits citizens from voting. We sued him, but unfortunately, a liberal judge here in Sacramento, no one's surprised about this, decided the Attorney General gets to do corruptly what he wants to do. We are still going to pass Prop 39, but it's going to take all of us spreading the word that the Attorney General has tried to manipulate the title on the ballot measure. We need you to sign up at our website, voteridinitiative.com. As a volunteer to spread the Plain English Voter Guide to all your friends and family. We will send it to you if you sign up at voteridinitiative.com as a volunteer. Chip in a contribution, or at least join us at one of our barbecue, beer, and ballot events listed at that website, voteridinitiative.com. We're not happy with the result of this lawsuit. We are certainly not going to accept a false and misleading ballot title on Prop 39, but to win, we're going to need everyone in the fight. Join us today at voteridinitiative.com.
Well, I'm not surprised. Thank you, Carl, for your hard work on this. Carl knew this was going to happen, and I knew this was going to happen. I think a lot of us knew. I am not surprised at all. Actually, I had hoped that maybe we would have some resolution or some victory with a lawsuit. I had hoped that maybe we might have some positive news here, but that really was just hope. Honestly, we all knew, those of us who have been working hard on getting out there and getting the word out there about this initiative and getting it passed, getting it onto the ballot, we knew that they were going to play games with the language because they don't want it to pass, because they know when voter ID passes in California, this whole state is going to change. And that's why it's going to be up to you and me to make sure that our friends and family, coworkers, neighbors, everyone knows what Prop 39 is. So you need to memorize it, memorize a few talking points. When you have the opportunity to hand out literature or to go to meetings to talk to candidates about this, take advantage of that, get the literature. Look, everybody's got to be in the game on this one, okay? Everybody, even you, because I know you're sitting there going, well, I don't have time. I don't have time. Nobody has time. Everybody's busy in Orange County. Do something you can do. You know, pick something that you can do. I think one thing you can do is track down some flyers. A great place to start is the Orange County GOP office. Give them a call or email and ask them how you might be able to get some flyers. And go for a walk one night. Y'all are exercisers, fitness experts out here in Orange County. Everyone loves to go for a walk after dinner. After dinner, just go hand the flyers out, stick them indoors, do that. You don't have to knock on a door, you don't have to talk to anybody, but just stick them in the door and do that. Do 100, do 200. We can cover a lot of ground that way, but everybody's got to be in the game on this one because they're going to pull every dirty trick in the book. They don't want this. And they know that if voters know what they're voting for, it's going to pass because it has a 75% approval rate on the left and the right in California. Because guess what? No one wants cheating. Democrats think that we're the ones cheating. Democrats think Republicans are the ones cheating. And you know what? Fine. I'm fine with them thinking that if that will get us this voter ID initiative. So Democrats, you don't want Republicans cheating, do you? No, of course not. And Republicans, we definitely don't want Democrats cheating. No, we're each suspicious enough of the other to come together to pass this. The only people in our way are the uniparty monsters in Sacramento. All right, this week I talked a little bit about in our Monday episode, I talked about, and I know this is going to be controversial, but why I think it's time to end public education. And I know a lot of you might be saying, well, Kira, you ran for the school board. Isn't that a little bit hypocritical? No. When I was running for the school board, I still believed that public education could be saved. But now that I'm looking at the product that they're churning out, and I'm looking at the rise of the DSA candidates, that's actually what's concerning me. And I'm looking at how we've had teachers now basically creating little soldiers. Think about all the schools across our county and the United States who pulled students out of school during the school day, took them out onto the street and put signs in their hands that said F ICE, or like we saw earlier in the show, happy last birthday, Donald Trump, without their parents' permission. And a lot of these young kids that you're seeing causing problems with ICE, causing problems in the streets, they're products of our public education system. I'm starting to wonder if we're really educating children or soldiers. Take a look. This is why I'm saying public school needs to go. I think we're at the end here. I don't know what service public school provides right now except babysitting. And don't get me wrong, that's valuable. I understand how valuable that is, but basically that's what public school has become. Daycare. And I'll tell you what, we found out during COVID that communities actually can come together and provide their own education needs They can provide for their own education needs when they are allowed to. Don't tell me about, well, what did the poor kids in LA do? Well, a lot of them did have options and they weren't allowed to take them. They weren't allowed to take those options. So if we have a government who will work with the community can provide schooling. What we're seeing right now in California is a collapse of public education because the teachers' unions it's just been a free for all here, a free for all. Do you know LAUSD has lost billions? Do you know that in, was it 2018 or 2017, might even have been 2016, LAUSD had a scandal with iPads. They had this big idea that they were going, I don't know if it was an idea or just more money laundering. It was just more money laundering, really. So they made a deal with Tim Cook or whoever at Apple and sunk $750 million into buying iPads for everyone in the district against the advice of literally everybody. Because parents don't want to be responsible for iPads. You live in a district where people, this is hundreds of thousands of kids, millions of people. You can't control for what's going to happen to the iPads. You have disrepair, being hacked, being sold, all of that thing, all of those things that can come into play. But also just the idea of just this screen time during the school day. That was a big deal. So they did it anyway. They spent the $750 million. They got the iPads. They distributed the iPads to LAUSD and they lost most of them, or most of them were broken or hacked. $750 million down the drain. So in that same year, they canceled the program, but only after they bought the iPads. They canceled the program, but they still wanted stuff for the kids. So they brought back the Chromebooks. And then they gave more money to the Chromebooks, but then they re-upped that Apple iPad contract, I think in 2019 or 2020. And again, it failed. Does everybody understand the game here? Does everyone understand what's going on here? If you want LAUSD needs to be broken up. First of all, at the very least, it's way too big of a district. Our school district should not be big. Like if you don't affirm the LGBTQ cult, if you don't affirm your kid who wants to transition, CPS will come and take your kid out of your safe home where they are loved and put them in a foster care system that is basically a sex trafficking system aided by the government. They'll put them in there. Isn't that interesting? For our children, because they know, sing it, Whitney, I believe the children are our future. She was prophesying. The children are our future, and they know that, and that's why they want to get them early. That's why here in California, they will teach your kindergartner about masturbation, genitals. Yes, they will. I think it's unconscionable to not do everything you can to stand in the way between this evil and our children. It's the school to prison pipeline. We have a phrase for it, the school to prison pipeline. It's not on accident, Black people. It's not on accident. And yet whenever somebody who's not a loyal Democrat comes to you and says, hey, you should be suspicious of the public education system. And every Black person I know wants to talk to me about systemic racism. Everyone, systemic racism. Okay, systemic racism right here in our public schools. A school to prison pipeline. Let's end this. Let's end the teachers unions who are holding our kids hostage. I want to know what you think. Am I crazy? Do you agree? There are ways to educate our students that don't involve federal public education. And I know a lot of you are going, oh, well, I can't homeschool. Homeschool doesn't have to be one of those options. You can have a local school model. John Adams, our founding father, was a teacher at his local school. His wife was a teacher. We did it for years and years, decades and decades, until the 30s and 40s. It can be done again. It's been a mistake to federalize public education. And I don't think that it's helpful at this point. Not to mention the teachers' unions get to hold your kids hostage and your tax dollars hostage. So public schools almost become a political weapon at this point. And it looks like that's what it's been used for when you think about all the culture battles that go on around our kids. And I want you to think about why the teachers' union fights so hard. Fights you parents so hard, even suing parents, calling parents terrorists. Why do the public schools fight so hard to keep you out of the curriculum and keep you from knowing what's going on in there? Why? Because they know how valuable your children are. They know not only are their bodies and minds valuable right now, right? If they can push your child into a transition healthcare system, right, that is set up around this very expensive and cruel process of transitioning kids from one gender to another, you've got a lifelong patient. That's lifelong meds, lifelong treatments, lifelong surgeries. So your kid not only does literally have a price tag attached to their head. And where do those transitions start? In your school. Your kid has a price tag attached to their head. Not only that, when they graduate high school, they have a good chance of just becoming a soldier for the cause. So there is a reason why they fight so hard for your kids. And then they get mad when you fight for your kids. I don't know. I think I made a good argument for ending public school, but let me know what you think. Drop it in the comments and go back and listen to Monday's episode. It's up at the Orange Report. You can find it there. Okay, probably our biggest story of the week was the Ladera Ranch cancer cluster. I had the opportunity to welcome John Gresko. He is the vice chair of the Ladera Ranch Civic Council, which is an all-volunteer council, so it's not a legislating body or a governing body. Ladera Ranch does not have that. We have an HOA. We're unincorporated. So the Civic Council is all volunteer. But John and the Civic Council have been spearheading efforts to find out what's going on with this toxic issue in Ladera. And I encourage you to go back and listen to the full episode. He was on Tuesday's episode. Was he on Tuesday's episode? Monday's episode. Well, just go to the Orange Report. You'll see it there. But I fully encourage you to go back and listen to that because John had some really interesting things to say. And one of the things he talked about is how easily we could really get to the bottom of this and how all of the red tape is getting in the way. So take a look at this clip from the episode and then let me know what you think.
And what we ended up doing is we offered the venue to be used as a public forum to talk about this issue. So we sent the letter on July 10th to our HOA, and the HOA is the body that maintains this unincorporated community. And we basically said, hey, we're hearing a lot from the residents. We're not seeing a lot of action. We're asking for a moratorium on pesticides. Because a lot of folks are talking about, and there's a lot of testimony and anecdotal evidence from a lot of residents here about what they've been seeing happening as far as the application of pesticides. So going back to my example of growing up with allergies, when I became an adult and I wanted to stop giving myself weekly shots after college, I went to my doctor and said, hey, I'm done with the shots. I can't do this. He goes, well, let's start eliminating things from your diet. I said, okay. So I want, the American Cancer Society says there's 250 diagnosed cases a year of adolescents. This Ewing sarcoma affects adolescents, okay, not adults. And so based on the population of Ladera Ranch and an estimated number of maybe 10,000 kids out of the 25,000 residents here, we should be expecting to see one case of Ewing sarcoma every 37 years. Okay. And right now we have at least 6, maybe 11, depending on the sources and the year at which these sources are compiled. We have a lot of cases. We have over 200 years of statistical cases occurring at one time. So that is the number that got me and my family really alarmed, which is why we started jumping into this. So yes, we've been concentrating on pesticides for right now, because I believe that's the one thing that we can safely do very easily. And I say that because, number one, the will of the people is there. There's a petition that's been circulating online. It has, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people, names on it right now. We had a huge attendance at this public forum. We had 400 people in person, 100 people online, and every single one of our representatives were there, be it federal all the way down to state assembly, state senator, and supervisor, county supervisor. They were all present. We have the attention of everybody on us. We have a nonpartisan coalition of people that all are saying we need to stop pesticides. We have the will of the people here all saying we got to stop pesticides. This should be an easy thing to do. Not only did we hear from the affected parents and parents who lost lost their children, and we heard from 4 different families. We heard from some advocacy groups, but I also invited the former mayor of Irvine, who implemented a very similar great precedent program 10 years ago. And then we also invited the current sustainability commissioner of Irvine, who oversees Parks and Recreation, which is the integrated pest management program. So to anybody that says, hey, Ladera starting from scratch, That's not true. We've got Irvine as an excellent precedent, and they've been doing this for 10 years. So we wouldn't be necessarily going out on a limb here. Irvine is 11 times greater population than Ladera Ranch. If they can get it done, there's no reason why Ladera Ranch can't get this done.
Well, explain to people why we can't get it done. We don't have, we're not waiting for this to trickle through a city council or go through a mayor. Ostensibly, it should be very easy if the whole community is behind it to say, let's stop. Let's use something else. So what is the holdup here, John?
Well, the holdup is that we're unincorporated and that our HOA is the body making the decision. So, there has been some progress since the Civic Council's letter to the HOA asking for a moratorium. 1 week later, on the 17th, the HOA did respond, which I believe was from the pressure of the community with this letter to do a 60-day ban on herbicides. However, that's just herbicides. And I think it's just 2 herbicides that are used here in Ladera Ranch, Lifeline and Atramic. So the HOA right now is working with a special task force and advisory group comprised of, some of the residents and affected families. And I know I'm not in that group, so I can't speak firsthand, but I did read the report or the minutes this morning from Ladera Health Watch, which is a Facebook group led by Jackie French, about the progress. And it sounds like the progress is being made. Now, I would counter that with it's not happening fast enough. What looks like to me, the HOA is really putting the burden on this advisory group to come up with the recommendations. Mm-hmm. We're not starting from scratch. So I'm famously impatient. I don't know why this is taking so long. We're going to have...
I want to thank John for coming by the show. And again, I encourage you to listen to the whole hour. We were on together for an hour, and I loved what he had to say about how our leaders should be able to at least quickly eliminate. It's not that we're saying there's a definite connection. There's a lot of research to be done. Frankly, I think there's a lot of research that hasn't been done because people don't want us to know the connection. Whatever the problem is, in a place like Ladera, where we have this reputation for being this picturesque, closed community, Pleasantville, they like to call us. And as everybody keeps calling us a wealthy Southern California suburb, as if we need the qualifier wealthy. But people don't picture having to deal with something like this in a place like Ladera. We're healthy people. We love our athletics. We love our natural foods and our organics, and we're always trading organic recipes and ideas for self-healing and wellness. Like, that's who we are in Ladera. We sell essential oils to each other. We go to the farmer's market. That's who we are. This should not be happening in a place like Ladera. And if we can't get this solved, this goes way beyond, this is much more shallow than the issue at hand, but it does go way beyond the health issues. If the Ladera Ranch HOA expects to keep selling homes in Ladera Ranch, we need to clean this up, because right now I would not recommend anyone buy a home in Ladera. I really wouldn't. If you have children, I really would not. And I wouldn't recommend anyone getting a new animal right now in Ladera. If it's a dog that you have to walk, I wouldn't recommend that either. And the national media has been all over this story, and they're going to continue to be all over this story, because we've got another meeting coming up on September 15th. That's the HOA meeting. Press is going to be there. The community is going to be there. Trust me, this is going to be the most well-attended HOA meeting you've ever seen. But we've also got other community meetings and rallies setting up to leading up into the HOA meeting. So this story isn't going away. And frankly, I don't see a reason why we can't solve this. Not only is this the United States of America, this is a small suburb. We should be able to easily solve this problem. We should be, at least, as John said, able to solve this through the process of elimination. And it should be like that. That's all it should take, because kids are dying. Kids are dying. And everyone who hasn't used whatever power they can to put an end to this, shame on you. I would like to say, often I'm on this show criticizing our school board for what they're not doing. CUSD school board has acted quickly. Thanks to Trustee Zollinger and President Lisa Davis, they did put an immediate pause on these pesticide sprays on CUSD properties. Now, CUSD covers a lot more than Ladera Ranch, But it's our school children, so I think that is great, and we would love to see Ladera Ranch follow suit. We have 2 public schools here, and we would love to see the community of Ladera Ranch follow suit. But thank you to the CUSD Board of Trustees for taking quick and decisive action. It should be that easy. And I would like to say they could probably do that about anything, right? You could take quick and decisive action like that about anything. You should ask yourselves why some of our leaders choose to act quickly on some things, but not others. All right, well, let's end on some good news. It's time for our Orange Countian of the Week. This week's Orange Countian is a dog. A 4-legged friend came to the rescue of the Laguna Beach Fire Department. They were trying to land an emergency helicopter in the hills of Laguna Beach to make a rescue, and there were goats. There were goats there, and there was no space for the helicopter to land, but have no fear. A very brave and dedicated sheep herder came to the rescue and made sure that the firefighters had enough space to land. Wow, that really was the goodest boy. Thank you so much to our Orange Countian of the Week. That truly is the Orange County spirit. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Before we go, I want to encourage you to sign up for the Orange Report Substack. So we're going to be adding more and more stories to the Substack as we move along. Don't forget to follow our friend Patsy over at The Bright Side with Patsy. You can also find her on the Orange Report Substack. That's good news. How about some good news for a change? Patsy, I'll give you a lot of the bad news. Patsy's going to give you things to feel good about and to look forward to. So go follow Patsy wherever you see her. And I also want to encourage you to get to a meeting. Here's a few meetings going on this week. Orange County Board of Supervisors regular meeting is at 9:30, Tuesday, August 11th in Santa Ana. Irvine City Council meeting is Tuesday, August 11th at 4 p.m. So you could make a whole day of it. Like pack a picnic lunch and go to, just make it a day of meetings. Go to the Irvine City Council meeting. That's at 4 p.m. That's at Irvine City Hall. City of Orange will have a city council meeting on Tuesday, August 11th at 6 p.m. See, you really could. You know what? How about this? How about a party bus that just goes to city council meetings? We get off at one city council meeting, we get back on, we have some drinks, we go to the next city council meeting. How's that sound? I think it could get dangerous, actually, when you think about how these meetings go. All right, City of Orange City Council meeting is Tuesday, August 11th at 6 p.m. At the City Council Chamber, 300 East Chapman Avenue. Garden Grove City Council meeting Tuesday, August 11th at 6:30 p.m. At the Garden Grove Community Meeting Center. And Orange Unified School District Board of Education meeting will be Thursday, August 13th. 5 to 9 p.m. Check the district website for more information on where to go. You can find that at orangeusd.org, orangeusd.org, Orange Unified School District. Okay, and those are some meetings for you to go to, but wherever you live, find a meeting and go to it, because I promise you it will change how you look at everything. We have not one more second to waste, my friends. Orange County needs a good defense, and you're the exact right person to provide it. So until we meet again, my friends, do not forget that sunlight is the best disinfectant. So bring on the sunshine.